Hey good friends, today I'm going to show you my favorite way to install Bonsai. There are more ways to install Bonsai, yes, you heard that right, but today I'll show you how to do it the way that I prefer and like the most. Alright, so what I'm talking about. You know Bonsai has few different versions. Like Bonsai, it's updated almost daily, at least few times a week, right? So if you go to BonsaiBIM.org to the homepage, and if you download this version from here, if you go here to download, you are going to get a stable version. Unfortunately, this version is quite old right now, especially because it's coming after a huge upgrade, and I'm talking about coming from 0.79 to 0.8, which has brought many things, and at the same time there were many things that have been fixed a bit later. So that's why I prefer to use the latest version. In my work as a BIM coordinator, I prefer to use the latest build because I get to use the newest features and all the bugs that are fixed, right? So this is the reason why I say that this is the way that I prefer to install it. And now Blender has made this easier, but to install it, it's a bit tricky, okay? After that, it's going to be much easier because we can update just by clicking one button, but to get there, it's a bit trickier, and let me show you how we can do that. Like I said, if you are going to go here, click download and go here, you are going to get a version. Here I have a newly Blender version installed. You see, I did not even connect to the extensions, so I will connect right now, and you'll see that if you install it from here, you are going to get a quite older version. It's version 0.80, and it's coming, I think it has been published sometimes in August, and I can promise you a lot has changed since. And if you want to use a newer version, and not only that, also to have the option to update it inside the user interface, which is the thing that I love about this, because I don't have to go outside Blender after that. I don't have to go to any other websites and so on. I can just click here and find everything I need. Then this is the way you want to install it. Okay, let's see what's happening here. It should not take so long to figure that out. Let me restart Blender. Let's see. I will start Blender 4.2. Now, by the way, this new thing has been possible only from Blender 4.2 and above. Yes, you can do it the way I'm doing, but you will not be able to install it via extensions before this version. So if you try to use Blender 4.1, you will not find these get extensions. You will be able only to install via add-ons manually, okay? Cool. So if you go here, and you type in Bonsai, you are going to get a version which is quite old, is this one right here, okay? And like I said, I think it's from August or something like that. In the meantime, I am using in my work like the latest version, which I think it was updated yesterday, okay? And that's what you also want to use if you are not a BIM modeler, again. But if you want to have a more stable environment and like a one where you want to update it, I think this is the best workflow. This is the best setup you can have to have two Blender versions installed. Have Blender 4.2 with the older, more stable build that you discovered, but not this one. This case is specifically, I think with the next release, we can say that, yeah, stick to the stable version. But the thing is, like in the first 2 or 3 weeks, there are many improvements coming along after a new release. So that's why I recommend not to necessarily use the stable release, but use the one after 2 or 3 weeks or 1 week, because some things are fixed immediately. Because most of the time when you put together many things, there are things that are missing and some bugs are happening and so on, right? So yeah, to business here. Let's assume that I already have installed this in Blender 4.3, or you want to use Blender 4.3 with the newest update, but that doesn't matter. Like, you install it the same way also in Blender 4.2, in Blender 4.3, okay? It doesn't matter. What I show you, it works in both of them, all right? So how do we do that? Let me minimize this, and I have to have both of this in the same screen. Okay, cool. So to install the unstable version, how they call it, and to be able to update daily, because that's what we want, okay? So in my case, we will not be able to see the update button, but exactly like after we install this Bonsai version, the way that I show you, the next time when a new version is released, like let's say on Monday, you are going to see a button here with update, and all you have to do is to click on the button update and restart Blender, and you are good to go, okay? You have to do the things this way I'm showing it to you only once, okay? Cool. So how do you get to that version? First and foremost, let's go to this right here, and we have to, there we go. You see this kitty cat right here, the GitHub repository. We have to go there if you want to install the unstable version. And here, if you scroll down, you'll see something called releases. You see this one? See, 8 hours ago. Okay, that's interesting. That's good. So clicking on here, you will get a page with many things here. And right here at the top, we see how to install Bonsai unstable repository, right? How to set up auto updates for Bonsai build. So then I click here, and there we go. Now, what is important to remember, to know that you have to do here, we see this is coming from available, okay? Now, what we have to do in this case is to see which version is for us, for our operating system. And for that, you have to look here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Yeah, there we go. You see here is the version of operate platforms, right? You see macOS 64, macOS ARM 64. This one is for me in my case. Maybe most of you are going to use it in Windows, so this is one, right? What you have to do here is a bit trickier, okay? So pay a lot of attention and try to do it. You see, you have to hover over this link right here and then drag and drop it here. So this is the macOS, the second one from the top for me. macOS ARM 64 is this one, right? So I hover, I don't click, and when I click, I don't release my click, okay? I keep it and I drag it to the left hand side, okay? So I click and I drag it, you see, you have to see this plus, and I release it here. And now you have to wait. You'll get a message which tells you that it will add this repository that you can find and install this version from. And yes, you want to click on add repository. And here, something very important. It's very important that you don't miss this step, otherwise you are going to miss the updates, but it's possible to fix it. And you see this right here, check for updates on startup, meaning that if you don't check this, you will not see the updates. So you want to make sure that you are checking this checkbox so that every time when you are starting Blender, it will automatically check and see if there is a new update version. And if it's an updated version, then you will see a button here called update, and you just have to click on it, right? You don't need anything else here. I'll just click on create. And we see now two bonsai things here. And how do we know which is the right one? I'll show you immediately. But if you look first, let me show you here. If you look at repositories, we see this one is for official extensions from Blender for the extension store, and this one is the one that we just added, right? And sometimes if you don't get update after 1 week or something, you might need to click on this button right here to refresh remote, okay? To manually refresh all this, you have to select it and refresh, because sometimes it takes a bit longer until it works. I don't know why is the reason for that. Most of the time it works when I'm restarting Blender. So when you start your day, right, you usually turn off your computer, and the next day, like when you start Blender again, you are going to see update here if you go to this setting. Okay, going back to what I was saying before, like how do we know which is what here, the version? So let's expand both of them. And you remember this one is the older one, and in maintainer it's IFC OpenShell, and you see the version is 0.8. That's how you know also. And look here, the repository, you see, this is the repository I was telling you. Like this is coming from blender.org. You see it clearly here, right? Meanwhile, this comes from raw GitHub user content. And you see also at the maintainer is Dion Mall. And also see that the version is 0.8.1. And if you look at this, alpha and 24 is the year, 12 is the month, which is December, and 20th December. So you see clearly that this is the newer one. And you also see that the website is from BonsaiBIM.org and not from extensions Blender.org, okay? So this is very clear which are the two. You don't want to install both, it will not work, right? So you want to install this one right here, the correct one. If you want to get rid of this and not see it, yeah, you can collapse that one, okay? If you don't want to get confused. But once you install this, you are going to see only this after that with update button. So this is the one we want to install. And now let's install it. You'll see, you have to wait. On Windows, it doesn't show this loading bar, so you might just wait until that happens. So just wait a little bit, you see it working, and you get a message that it has been installed somewhere here in Blender. But anyway, like if you are waiting too long, if you see that nothing is happening, just close Blender, okay? But I would wait until this loading cursor disappears. But you see, and this is showing me that it's loading, is installing, right? And most of the time after that, might take 1 or 2, 3 minutes, depending on your machine. You see now it has disappeared, that loading, and it shows here that it's installed. Before we have it under available, and now we have installed, right? We have these two tabs. And yeah, okay, what I want to do right now is actually to restart Blender, okay? For some reason I have 2 instances of Blender, so that's fine. Let's go and start Blender now, and now we should be able to see bonsai. And the same for you, like just wait until that loading cursor disappears. But if it takes more than 2 or 3 minutes, or let's say 5, then you have to close it and start it again anyway. On Windows it's a big buggy, I don't know why, but I have to restart it to see that. And now we see that we have bonsai. How do we know that? Well, you look here, you see this IFC menu, right? And we see this is the bonsai menu, right? And if we want to create a project, you are going to see these things, okay? And something else, look in the bottom to the right hand side corner, and you are going to see the Blender version and also bonsai version. In my case, I can see 4.2.5, which is the Blender version, and then the bonsai version, which is bonsai version 0.8.1 alpha, blah blah blah, okay? So that's how I prefer to install bonsai, and this is what I use. And like I said, after that, like tomorrow or in 2 days or whatever, you are going to see, you see, are the available add-ons that you can install, like all coming from Blender. You don't want to see that noise maybe, and you want to see only the install, you just collapse this, and now you see here Blender, and you are going to see a button exactly like in this case. You see, like install, it's here, it's going to show right here, and it's going to be update. Okay, all right, amazing, cool. I hope you enjoy this. Again, like I always recommend you to try this. Okay, try this. If you need a more stable combination, like I said, install 2 instances of Blender and have one for an older build that works better for you, and keep anyway one with newer one. But I would always try the newer one, and if I find some bugs, I would just go back to the more stable one. In a way, it disrupts my workflows. Okay, all right. Now don't forget to go and check the link in the description and join the largest openBIM community in the world. Let's disrupt the built environment together. See you inside.